So we've probably all been there where we use console.log to debug and visualize absolutely everything. So for example, we could log out hello world here, as you can see in our editor, and if we inspect our application, you can see hello world. But there is a lot more that you can utilize, and this video will show you 11 different console methods, starting with styling your console log. To do this, the console.log takes two arguments, the first being whatever text you want to style, but with a %c at the beginning like so. And the second argument being some semicolon separated CSS, like how you would write inline HTML styling. And colour green. Now if we save that and inspect our application, you will see hello world, but slightly bigger and in the colour of green. Next up we have console.warn, which, once given some text, will show your text in the console, but will be indicated as a warn. Fairly straightforward. This is a warning. So if we refresh our application, you will see this is a warning, and it's indicated with this yellow exclamation mark on the side. Next is console.error. Similar to warning, you pass it some text, and once you inspect your application, it will log your text as an error. So for example, if we put this is an error and refresh, and you will see this is an error logged in our console but indicated with a red background and a red cross next to it. Next up we have a nice assertion method which allows us to test some code in one line. It has two arguments. The first is your code that you will test, and the second argument is a string that will be your message in the console. So for example, if we do console.assert 1 is equal to 1 and say that is wrong and refresh our application, you'll see there's nothing logged to the console, and that's because it's only logged to the console when something is false. And as you can see, this assertion here, 1 is equal to 1, is actually true. So if we change this to 1 is equal to 2 and refresh our application, you will then see assertion failed, and then our message that we appended in the second argument, which is that is wrong. Next up is console.clear, which, once we refresh our application, just simply clears everything that we've had in the console so far. Next up is viewing DOM elements and their methods. If I scroll back up to the top here, you may remember that I selected this h1 in our HTML. Now if we console.log that, you will notice that it just logs the element itself. Whereas if we used console.dir, and refresh our page, you will see all of the available properties and methods attached to that element. Next up is counting, which is fairly straightforward and just counts how many times a specific string, object, number, etc. was used in real time. So for example, if I just do a console.count of James and copy and paste that 3 times, and then do a couple for Steve, and we console log that, you will see that the names and the corresponding numbers are shown in real time. So it says at the very end that James was counted 3 times and Steve was counted twice. Next, we have a nice helper method which tells us how fast a piece of code took to run. And to demonstrate this, I will be using a fetch from GitHub, which will return some data in JSON. So if we do console.time, fetching data, and then I've just pasted in this little code snippet here which simply fetches from data from my user account from GitHub, and then puts that data into JSON and console logs that data out. Now you'll notice this console.timeEnd here, which must match up with the initial string that you passed into console.time, which indicates to JavaScript to say, oh, don't track any more time on this performance measurement. So if we save that out and refresh the page, you will see fetching data took 633 milliseconds to return from GitHub. Last but not least is console.table, which is one of my personal favourites, which visualizes an array of objects very nicely for you. So if you remember from earlier, we had this dogs array up here, with each dog represented as an object, and we can console log that. So if we do console.log dogs and refresh the page, you will see our array of objects here. But there is a nicer way of visualizing this, and we can use instead console.table dogs. And if we refresh that, you can see it formatted nicely in this table-like structure. Now there's one thing that you should note about this, is that it has to be an array of objects for it to display in a nice table, otherwise it will just throw an error. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and you will be using these console methods when developing and testing your applications.